ever break me. Ever. I'm trying to get some money.
You.
No, you.
You. I'm wrong with you. For what?
Get the papers. Play the high road like I should have done a long time.
It looked more serious and reflective on a cold Friday night like that. After a long work week, Kendra had spent the day anticipating a quiet evening at home, a welcome respite from her busy routine. She was prepared to surprise him with a romantic dinner because Yung Joc and she had not spent much time together lately due to his work, personal obligations, and the upheaval in their two social groups. But because she thought this night would be different, she prepared his favorite meal, set lights on the table, and even came up with a playlist of songs that brought back memories of their early love. Her heart skipped a beat when she got home, eager to see him grin and forge a new bond with him. However, there was an odd quiet, no sounds of him greeting her, no lighthearted remarks, and no confusion in the kitchen as she had assumed, and something didn't feel right. In the entryway, after listening intently for a time, she heard it laughing. The tone was low, almost humorous, but it was obvious. Upon seeing that voice, Kendra's pulse increased, and her heart stopped pounding. A young woman. It was not just Joc's voice that made her tremble, but also the voice of Karlie read in her stomach. Kendra was worried about Karlie, Joc's ex-girlfriend from the beginning, but she had believed Joc when he said she was only a holdover from the past. That confidence was abruptly undermined, however, by the distinct noises of familiarity coming from her bedroom. Kendra started walking in the direction of the diversion while her mind raced. She struggled to understand what was happening, despite the fact that she knew deep down that she wasn't prepared for whatever she was about to learn, even if her body appeared to be driving her ahead on instinct. Kendra arrived at the hallway leading to the bedroom and cautiously walked up to the door, her heart thumping in her chest as her fingers shook and she clutched the handle. She opened the door after waiting and listening to the silence. Something caught her off guard when she saw a young athlete sprawled out on the ground, half-clothed. Karlie Red was seated beside him in bed, her hand resting on his chest, enjoying a private moment. Karlie had a small smirk at the corner of her lips as she watched Kendra, and Joc's eyes were wide with disbelief. Breathing became lodged in her throat, preventing her from moving or speaking, and she felt as though the room was closing in on her, crushing her with an immovable weight. He scrambled for his pants, his face burning, and the Joc sat up. However, Karlie merely sat there, seemingly indifferent, as though this were just another day of playing with the teenager. The only idea that crossed Kendra's mind as she attempted to interpret what she was witnessing was one of treachery. "Hey Kendra, I didn't expect you home so soon. This isn't what it seems like." Joc spoke softly, almost beggingly, in an awkward attempt to explain as he stood up, his eyes wide and palms up. Kendra gently shook her head, her voice shattering beneath the weight of her incredulity, her eyes blazing with unshed tears. "Is it conceivable that you share my bed with Joc, your ex-partner?" After tensing up, Joc attempted to approach her, but Kendrick intervened. The reason she was holding him back was that she couldn't stand to face him or hear his justifications. In order for him to avoid seeing her collapse, her body was wailing for her to get out of the room. "Hey Kendra." Moving forward once more, he pleaded, "Let me explain that it's not what you believe. The fact that she's your ex-girlfriend, Joe, is in my bed like she belongs there, and isn't bringing up old things makes you think I'm dumb." Kendra strongly reinforced that we were just chatting when Karlie came over to discuss some old concerns. After a while, Karlie's voice was calm and reflective within. It was made worse by the cold edge. "I don't want to start a fight, but it's obvious that Joc and I still have unresolved issues. My sweetheart Kendra. I understand that he is not yours alone." He's reflecting on how Karlie's remarks tonight crushed Kendra's heart. It was clear from the bitterness in her voice that Joc didn't want to sit next to her, but he decided to stand there, torn between the past and the present, like a man indecisive. Kendra glanced at both Joc and Karlie, and her eyes filled with tears. When the Joker opened his mouth to speak, nothing came out of it, his face contorted with shame. All along, Have you not been telling me the truth? Even though you're obviously not over her, you've been acting like you are, and now you bring her into my house as if it were nothing out of the ordinary. Joker, I have faith in you. Kendra looked away and whispered, I loved you, her heart aching from the weight of everything she believed to be real crumbling around her. She could not stay in that room any longer, to gaze at him, to face the woman who had continuously kept him around. With shaking hands, Kendra grabbed her luggage and hurried out of the room and the house. The cold air slapped her, but it was nothing compared to the chill that found its way into her chest. She was sure she had to leave them both, but she was clueless as to what she was doing and where she was heading. She was unable to foresee the extent of the betrayal, and at the time, the pain was almost unbearable. The jock stood in the doorway, watching Karlie go, knowing that he had just lost her, but he couldn't. Some part of him continued to be unable to turn his head away. Inside the house, Carrie looked at him, her lips forming a knowing smile. More than a memory, she was a constant presence that had never truly left him. Tonight, she had reminded him that Kendra was no longer with him, and that Juke was left to deal with the consequences of his choices alone. He knew deep down that he had just lost something material, but the question still stood, would he ever be able to go on and let go of the past, or would he always be caught between the woman he had loved and the one who was still? As Kendra walked into the darkness, her sorrow-filled heart pulled at his heartstrings. The wind was cold, but she knew she couldn't stay in a place where she wasn't welcome, so she made the decision to find a way to recover and start over without him. She was clueless about what was ahead.